in comic art, there was definitely before Neal Adams and after Neal Adams. I mean, you had this incredibly realistic style.
BNA? That sounds disgusting. I think that stands for something else. You're trying to fund me here. You're trying to kid. I get it. I understand what's going on here.
How did you get into comics, Mr. Adams?
It wasn't easy. I get into comics by going swimming upstream. In the day that I was getting into comics, nobody was getting into comics. There's nobody in comic books that's 5 years my junior or 5 years my senior. I don't think that's a thing to be proud of, but it's a fact. Comic books were really, really bad in the United States of America. Congress had hearings where they, just as they criticized communists, they criticized comic books. I don't think you can put them into the same category, but somehow comic books were bad for America. As we've discovered, comic books are not bad for America. Apparently comic books are very good for America.
Why did you choose this particular art form? I mean, with your talent, you could have done any kind of commercial art. Why comic books?
Well, if you listen to the opinions of other people, it's because I was stupid. Because it was a stupid thing to do, it was a stupid direction to go in, and if I was really serious about my future, I wouldn't do it. I have a kind of a history of being right after everybody else insists that I'm wrong, for a long time. So that my choosing to be in comics, or trying to be in comics, was, according to everybody else, a mistake, because there were no such thing as comics. In fact, when I got into comics, everybody basically said comic books will be gone in a year or two, and that'll be the end of it. But I wanted to do comic books, so I chose to do comic books. To a certain extent, they were right, and to a tremendous extent, they were wrong. The comic books of that day were very watered-down comic books. The comic books of today are very exciting and genuinely wonderful and creative and fabulous, and they've led to television shows, movies, computer games. In fact, comic books are taking over the world, if you think about it. Our entertainment medium is filled with comic books. So that if you were to ask me why I chose comic books, obviously it had to be a personal decision, because there was nothing right about it. In fact, until it started to advance, everything was wrong. Now, like I'm a prophet, somehow Neal was able to figure it out, and nobody else was able to figure it out. And when I say nobody else, I mean the whole of the American culture wasn't able to figure it out. But it turned out that I was right and they were wrong.
You know, as far as I'm concerned, you are a gigantic talent.
So you to continue to compliment me. I'm saying that so you can like get over it. We can move on and talk about more exciting stuff, like motion comics.
Please, tell us about that.
There you go. Okay, we're on the same line here. Motion comics are comic books that you can watch like a video. They have a script, they have voices, they move, mouths talk, heads turn, people walk, people run, people punch, people do all the things they do in comic books except they're moving. And the drawings, the animation, is of the artist that did the work in the comic book. It's not 75 guys in Czechoslovakia animating Bruce Timm. And I'm not criticizing Bruce Timm, but one of the things you do in animation is you simplify drawings and you make them into cartoons. Well, we know comic books aren't cartoons. Comic books are realistic drawings that are essentially movies. So how do you take a comic book in its purest form and make it into a movie? Motion comics. And that's what they are. It's a new art form. It's never existed before, even though there have been lots of things sort of like it, and there have been attempts like Watchmen, failed attempts. But motion comics are a unique form. They are, if you could say, could you perform magic? Could you take a magician and have him take your comic book drawings and make them act and make them move by using some kind of magic technology? I would watch that But can you do that? The magician says, well, either he can or he can't. This magician says, I can. We can make them move. So why would you not want to see that? If you could see the X-Men walk and talk and move, and not through actors, but with the drawings of John Cassidy or Stuart Immonen or John Romita Jr., their drawings would actually move, and then you could go back to the graphic novel and look at the work that in the graphic novel, and then look at and see that they're the same thing. Then you would, one, buy the motion comic, and two, buy the graphic novel. So for our business, talking about just business, it's a great beginning of a new form.